dives into the high stakes scenarios, such as hostage situations, which are a real classical negotiation situation, and some billion-dollar business deals that you've seen. And it makes a really compelling read to get inside some of those stories. I'm just kind of curious as an opener, like about the principles from some of these high stakes negotiations. Do they apply in the same way to people's everyday lives and those kind of more mundane negotiation situations I mentioned?
So does a hostage negotiation technique work to get your kids to tidy their room kind of thing?
Exactly, yeah.
Well, they do, interestingly, and that is really fascinating that that's the case. And my view is exactly as you say, that we're negotiating all the time, and we have big set piece negotiations with lawyers and such like, but we also have these micro negotiations that take place a dozen times a day, and our world, I think, is made up of those micro negotiations. So if you can get good at those micro negotiations such that you get your outcome and you build the relationship at the same time, you improve the relationship at the same time, if you can do that in every aspect of your life, which is where we're negotiating, then that's really going to help you in every area of your life. So it's a really great thing to do. Now, I think that all negotiations have universal principles, given that they are basically human to human and human trying to change the other human's mind. They have the same universal principles. Whether we're talking about a peace treaty negotiation, whether we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar negotiation, whether we're talking about where we're going to go on holiday, who's going to take the rubbish out, it's the same underlying universal principles. Now, there are obviously contextual overlays, to be fair, but at the same time, if you're good at one, you should be able to transfer the same approach and methods to the other one. Now, so what I did for the book, as you said, basically I interviewed a whole load of people. My first book was about win-win negotiation. My first book was The Leader's Guide to Negotiation. That was all about a step-by-step approach to getting win-win. And I got a lot of pushback from that, from people saying, yes, Simon, win-win, great in theory, but you haven't seen the person I'm negotiating with. Or in my situation, there isn't a win-win to be had. It's mutually exclusive. It's zero sum. And these were kind of legitimate concerns, which I thought I'd addressed within the book, but obviously not clearly enough. So for the second book, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go extreme, and I'm going to interview people who negotiated or persuaded successfully in extreme circumstances. So that's hostage negotiators, it was peace treaty negotiators, people who avoided war through their negotiations, billionaires. But also I wanted to work with the home situation, the day-to-day situation as well. So I interviewed therapists and dating coaches and relationship coaches and family coaches and this kind of stuff. And again, people who worked in, again, quite often extreme circumstances. So therapists who worked with addicts and these kinds of things. And one of the things that was really fascinating was that all of these different negotiators, or these negotiators, stroke persuaders, stroke influencers, who worked in very different contexts, had independently developed the same method. And this was what was really interesting. The 6 Steps method in the book, pretty much all of those different people followed the same method, which they developed in totally separate, independent contexts. So what applies for a hostage negotiation, as it turns out, does work with your kid as well.
Yeah.